So we have too many questions or too many topics that we wish to cover. I hope that we will have enough time to cover all of them. We're super excited for this webinar because I really believe it's a really interesting story and a really interesting mindset on how customers or how companies in 2025 should operate and should build their customer facing approaches. So thank you for being here with us and sharing it with our audience. The webinar is recorded and you will get a recording probably tomorrow. If you have any questions, you have this Q&A section. So you can just start asking your question over there, and from time to time we will take a look over there. So before I will ask the Okta team to introduce themselves, just a bit about myself. So I'm Shahar, I'm VP Product here at EverAfter. And for those of you who are not familiar with EverAfter, we provide a goal-based customer experience at scale that you can design based on whatever program, whatever stage, whatever customer persona that you wish to serve. And when we talk about how to productize different programs, so there are like many different programs that in 2025 in the digital era you might be considering in productizing. Here are some of the programs that potentially you might consider to productize, and we have here a full menu with some explanation on any one of the programs here. So I'd be happy if you could introduce yourself, Alana. Maybe we can start with you, and if you can tell us a bit about yourself and maybe a bit about Okta as well, for the few people that might not know.
Sounds great. Hi, everyone. I'm Alana Stoltzfus. I lead our automation and scaled insights team as part of our digital success team at Okta. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Okta, our vision is to free anyone to safely use any technology. So that can come in many shapes and forms, including how we help secure our workforce customers. You might be familiar with Okta and how you authenticate into all of your applications through work, but we also secure customer identity experiences, meaning allowing our customers to reach their customers in a secure manner. So I will hand it over to Austin to introduce himself.
Awesome. Thanks, Alana. Hey, everyone. My name is Austin Henline. I am an Associate Digital Growth Manager here at Okta on Alana's team. I've been here a little over 2.5 years, and so I've focused on a lot of scale and outreach. How is it that we can create value for a lot of our customers that don't typically have a CSM? So people who don't have an Okta rep to give them guidance on how to best leverage their products. And so it's been a journey across the past 2.5 years, discovering ways to maximize the value for those customers at scale. And so really happy that we came across Okta. We've been a big fan of it. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
And I think that, how we assume that it's right to do digital 2 years ago is different than what we think about that now. So it's crazy to see how, everything like evolving and we need to adapt to that. So we have here digital acceleration and growth. I'm sure that many of the people here, it might be the first time that they see such a department. So if you can share with us before we dive to the actual programs, what is the mission of your department, Alana?
Yeah, so our goal is to help drive overall customer success, adoption, retention at scale, whether that's through driving self-service experiences for our customers who, for example, don't have CSMs, or to help our team scale so that they can more effectively reach their customers. So as part of digital acceleration and growth, I think that in the industry that might be more well known as digital success. My team specifically focuses on how do we use insights as a way to drive digital success. So that might be using data as a way to demonstrate value or drive highly personalized experience to our customers so that they can know their best path forward.
And so how do you define like a digital success?
How do I define digital success? So, I would say, at least in the lens of how we think about digital success at Okta, it's how we drive customer adoption, retention, and overall driving better outcomes, such as growth, using digital methods. So it could be digital channels like email, in-app guides. It could be using data that we can automate using technologies that automate slide decks or through self-service experiences. It really spans across all of those areas where we can really take data as a way to drive personalization, whether it's proactively to reach our customers, or it provides a place for our customers to go so that they can decide what their path forward is.
And how did you how did you evolve to this role? I mean, I know that people really like to know like journey of other people. So how did you evolve into this role?
Yeah, I'll speak for myself, and then I'll let Austin speak
Yeah.
for his journey, since we all have our own distinct journeys. But for me, years ago, I was a customer success manager myself. The last time I was in that CSM role was when I was at LinkedIn. And while I was there, that role really taught me to identify areas that could use data as a way to help our customers self-serve. I was almost like a little startup within the company, and so we ran pretty lean, and realized like I wanted to be talking to customers. I wanted to be driving better conversations with my customers, and I knew that there was a better way so that I didn't have to do all this manual work, where I could free up my time to actually drive better conversations with my own book of customers. So while I was there, I built our what we ended up calling some sort of resource hub for our customers. I helped build a lot of our knowledge articles and knowledge base so that our customers could self-serve. And on top of that, we had the support of that LinkedIn arm that helped us scale with data-driven insights. So I realized that that was one of the more interesting parts of my job, and I wanted to focus on that. And I continued to do more of a focused role on customer retention, focus on insights in terms of voice of the customer at Atlassian. So I was there for a little bit, and then about almost 5 years ago, our director of our organization reached out to me from Okta, and I remember I even said, I don't think I'm searching for a job right now, but I'm always happy to chat. And now here I am almost 5 years later. So we've had quite the journey at Okta. We were a team of 2 for quite some time. And now we've evolved to an organization of over 12 people that are all driving towards this self-service experience and driving better outcomes with data.
Nice. That's a really nice journey. Austin, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, I also was at LinkedIn. I graduated college and then I joined LinkedIn as part of a rotational program. I initially joined with the intention of going into sales, so to become like an AE or a CSM. But when I joined, this was the second time ever that they had kind of pathways. So there's 4 different pathways that you could take. Most of the people went the traditional sales route, but I decided to go the marketing route because I had experience in social media, thought leadership, things like that, and I really enjoyed writing. I think it's just really fun to learn how to better myself through writing, copywriting, compelling people to, click on something. And so I went that route, and there were multiple rotations. I was part of LinkedIn's localization email program. So I managed a global email sent of about 1 million emails to global customers. And I really found it super interesting to analyze the click-through rates. How can we improve our email programs? I rewrote some of them, and one of them had the highest performing like click to open rate and open rates in the program's history. And so it was just like super fun for me to analyze the data. And then one of the last rotations was focused on being a scaled CSM. So what that meant is I wasn't customer facing, but I supported a team of about 10 CSMs in helping to prepare presentations for them, personalizing their decks, making their job easier. And then I came across just a job on LinkedIn. I know people are like, cold applications are dead these days, but I was like, well, it's worth a shot. So I applied. There were several things that I thought were really interesting, but I was like, well, it would be a step up into something that would challenge me. And so I wasn't really expecting much of it. I just submitted the application and then interview turned to another and another. And then I ended up uh, getting the role. And that was a little over 2 years ago and 2 months. And since then, the role has adopted a lot. We've, as Alana mentioned, grown the team a lot. And it's really cool to be a part of a team and a program that has so much focus on how we can grow not just our team, but Okta and the customers as a whole.
And when you say that you need to drive meaningful outcomes for thousands of customers at scale, so we like to take a look at the different programs that you need to build in order to really provide these outcomes to your customers. So if you can share with us which customer programs are you like are top of mind or you're focusing on?
Yeah, so across the team, we have a number of different programs that we run, whether it's through email, for example, we run all of our onboarding emails, adoption emails when customers are early in their journey. And then we also run a value snapshot program that provides a one-page snapshot of how a customer has delivered value using their data that we deliver on a quarterly basis to all of our customers who do not have CSMs. So that's ways that we proactively reach out to our customers, and then we guide them to actually complete those steps in the product, and within the product, providing in-app guidance throughout their journey in the product so that they can then complete that step. So that's really where we started with our programs, is through email and in-app guides. And as we've evolved, we've started to expand specifically within my team to how we can better use insights to demonstrate value to our customers and highlight unrealized value. So what are those adoption opportunities that customers can take? So as part of that, we expanded to support our customer-facing teams by delivering insights to them to deliver to their customers in the form of decks. So think like automated QBRs and check-in decks. And we also started to build out our customer success hub, which sits in our Okta Help Center. So that provides sort of this one-stop shop for customers to go to determine what are their next steps. And we use their data as a way to help figure out where they are in their journey. So we'll default them into, let's say, a getting started phase if we know they haven't deployed. We'll default them into a sort of a drive adoption phase that's more focused on adoption steps that are required after they've already onboarded. So we have all these assets and a really great foundation to drive these areas. And I think the main gap that was missing for us is we provide all this personalized information based on their steps that they've taken in the product and based on what we know about them, let's say Salesforce data, based on industry or whatever it might be. But we didn't actually know, especially for those customers who don't have customer success managers, what they're trying to achieve with Okta. That may have been a conversation in the pre-sales process, but that's kind of in some Salesforce notes somewhere. It wasn't something that we could really automate to the thousands of customers that we have. And that's ultimately what drove us to look into EverAfter, because we wanted to be able to provide recommendations for our customers in the context of their business goals.
So I mean, we talk with many companies and many companies explain the challenge in really delivering success plans, not only in scale, but obviously also in scale. And what challenges, I mean, how did you approach to solve like this success plan at scale problem that many customers or many companies face more and more?
Yeah, so we had this great framework that we created at Okta that we call the Okta Identity Maturity Model. And it provided this really clear roadmap to success for our customers based on what they're trying to achieve, and provided this score so that customers know, here's where I am in my journey and the steps that I need to take moving forward. The challenge that we saw with it was it wasn't scalable. It would require a lot of manual effort to analyze data, where customers are in their journey, how does that map to that business goal? And ultimately, that's what where we landed finding EverAfter, where we could automate that journey to help give a customer a sense of, well, where am I and what are my next steps? And that was valuable not just for our customers who didn't have CSMs, but also for our customers who did have CSMs to help our CSM scale, but also kind of give a visual for our CSMs to go to as a hub to walk their customers through those recommendations. rather than talking through everything where it doesn't have a place to be visualized or referenced over time.
So, and we also have here someone asking here on the Q&A. So the question is, did you use EverAfter? But I would maybe add, why did you choose to use EverAfter for that program and for others?
Yeah, so we chose EverAfter because it basically checked all the boxes for us. We needed something that would capture our customer business goals. It would integrate with all of our systems. That was key. We couldn't have it like living in this separate portal. It lives in our customer success hub, which is built on Salesforce Experience Cloud. So we were able to embed the EverAfter component within sales, that Experience Cloud experience. And we were able to take all the data that we're capturing and feed it back into Gainsight, which is what we use for our success plans. So it was really important for us that we didn't just introduce another system that captured data in a separate place. It basically just played really nicely with everything that we already had, whether it's through Gainsight, Salesforce, et cetera. And then all of our data, where we are measuring adoption and feeding that into our programs, like how we calculate an automated identity maturity score, lives in Databricks. And again, we didn't want to have to put all that data in some other system. We've explored other vendors and used other vendors before that rely solely on Salesforce. And yes, we use Salesforce, but it often takes a lot of BT resources or business technology resources to update Salesforce with the data that we needed. And we needed an agile approach in order to bring new data over time. And Databricks is really that source for us where we can have that control and flexibility. So the fact that EverAfter integrated directly with Databricks gave us that flexibility so that we could bring in the data that we have and have a more robust set of data.
I mean, we definitely see that the ability to connect all of like the different data sources that you as an organization use, or any company as an organization, is really key in creating this layer of true personalization to really tell each customer what they need to do based on what they told you, but what you know about them and what they actually did. So yeah, definitely, Salesforce is a great source, but you might have other sources that could help in creating this personalization level.
Yep.
So we have the success plan that was built to serve a lot of different customers in a no touch and potentially also like in a hybrid touch model. What's the flow as an Okta customer? What is the flow that and I can share my screen when you'd like, but what is the flow that I will take?
Yeah, I'll let Austin answer that question.
Yeah, great question. So with the flow that we had, when we wanted to pilot this with customers, first we wanted to see if this was viable a solution for us. So the first thing was notifying the customers that this existed. So we shared an email program, and we used Pendo. And so we had a Pendo resource notification to let them know, hey, you have this experience available. This new success plan is available to you to actually drive traffic to this. Since this does exist within the customer success hub, if we didn't let them know that it was there in the first place, maybe, maybe 1 out of 100 customers would stumble upon it by themselves. But once they knew it was there, then they'd know where to find it. So getting them there was the first thing. But once they're actually there, we kind of had a 3-step process to actually achieve the outcomes that we wanted. The first thing before any customer can actually access their success plan is we wanted to know why they're using Okta. And so we worked with the team to create across 9 different goals, things that we felt summarized why any customer would be using Okta, and they could pick as many as were relevant to them. And then when they save that is saved back to Gainsight so that we could keep those and be able to personalize their programs for future programs that we wanted to share with the customer. So that's the first step, is asking the customer why they're using Okta. Then once they click save, this would tell there would be kind of a waiting screen that says, please wait, while we personalize your recommendations. And while that is calculating, EverAfter would make a live call to our database to check the live data of our customers. So that's where the EverAfter's capability of integrating with our data sources was very important, because we wanted these to be relevant and personalized to the customers. And so once EverAfter spoke to our data sources to understand where our customers were, live data, Alana mentioned that we had an identity maturity model, which kind of shares where a customer is in their identity maturity journey. And for this example, you can see the customer is in stage 3 or 4. And so they're like, okay, how do I get to stage 4? And then that's where kind of this success plan motion comes in. Underneath, you can see that there are recommendations. Well, first of all, you can see that there's a taskbar that they've completed 65% of this. And so they could technically open it and see all the things that they've done. But based off of the 65%, we know that because EverAfter checked the data. And so they're like, okay, they've already completed this, and this, and automatically checked off of the checklist everything that they've already done. So anything that a customer is seeing right now means that they, based off of their current adoption data, have not taken these steps. And then within each checklist, there's ways that they could learn more about why that's important, go to relevant help articles, and then the customer can check those off as they, are going through it. And there's also a hub that we built for resources for these customers. Since they might not have a dedicated Okta rep, then they want to stay in the loop as well. And so aside from just the goal collecting, the recommendations and automating and checking where they are in their journey, there's also a hub of resources that we've collected for those customers.
All right. So to recap the flow, and I think that the flow that you've built and it's really it's great in many reasons. First of all, I think that once customers enter this interface, it's very clear for them what you want them to do, and you would like them at this step just, hey, give us your goals. And we added here this like blurred widget to gamify it a bit, to tell them, hey, once you provide us your goal, we will actually curate and unlock the experience for you. So as you mentioned, these goals are captured directly to Gainsight. So you and the other customer facing teams will have this knowledge. Based on that, you built a level of recommendations that take into consideration their actual product usage and their actual goals or desired business outcomes. And with the personalization level, it creates a curated list of the things that you know that they need to do. And you mentioned we involve the information from Databricks here. And in addition to that, in order to make them more aware of other things that's going on with Okta, and there's like all the time, all amazing like resources and videos, so they could always get up to date with what's new. So yeah, I think that we covered that. So we also covered how it actually fits into your existing tech stack, right? We talked about the different integrations. And Alana, you mentioned, and Austin as well, you mentioned that the customers access this one as a part of their help center, right?
Yes, within our help center, we have a dedicated section called our Customer Success Hub, and that is where we include recommendations that are personalized for that customer, personalized resources, reports, etc. So it was an existing resource that we already had for our customers that we launched probably 2 years ago, and this is a value add or addition to that resource that's embedded within it.
I think there's an interesting question here. The question is, so practically this program didn't add manual tasks for the CSMs?
Did we add manual tasks for the CSMs? Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, this program didn't basically, did this program add manual tasks for the CSM?
So we are actually launching our CSM program in 2 weeks. So not yet. I think the goal for the future is, depending on the segment, there might be different tasks for a CSM to complete. So for example, for our customers who are served by our pooled CSM team or our Scale CS team, there might be CTAs that we run in Gainsight to say, hey, this customer is at stage 1 or 2 maturity. You should reach out to them and use this checklist as a driving force of the conversation to help them get to that stage 3 or 4 maturity for those high-risk customers.
But big chunk of the audience of this program is the non-managed customers, right?
Yes, that's how we first launched the experiences to our customers who do not have CSMs.
So for them, no additional manual tasks for Okta team members for this segment. Just on the question.
Yep.
All right. So before we go to other questions from the audience, I'm sure that, and I also see one question like that, but what were the outcomes and the feedback that you got for this program?
Yeah, I'll speak to some of it, and then Austin, feel free to chime in if you have anything to add. So part of we had a few goals when we first ran the pilot for the program. We started as a pilot, and that's really where the measurement has taken place so far. But amongst the pilot, we wanted to capture business goals. And that is valuable not just for this experience, but because we capture business goals in Gainsight, that enables us to power better digital experiences throughout all of our digital programs. So think like personalized emails, adoption emails based on those business goals that we captured in Gainsight, or personalized in-app guides. Like it unlocks quite a bit for our customers who don't have CSMs. So that was primary. Is first, let's just see how many business goals we can capture. And within like a week of launch, we were capturing like 20% of our customer base's business goals. So far exceeded what we thought we would be able to get, given that this is a less engaged segment. We also wanted to know, once we've captured those business goals, did we actually drive the outcomes we wanted to drive? For example, did we get the customer to adopt the feature that was outlined in their task? And we had, for example, one feature that was like very low adopted, like across our customer base. For those who were entitled to it, it was like 5% had adopted that particular feature. And during the week that we launched our pilot, it was just like 10% of our customer base, maybe even less, like 5% of our customer base that we launched with the pilot. We affected our global adoption number 3 times what it normally is in terms of like what we would expect in terms of weekly adoption. So it provided visibility to these steps that customers previously like really didn't have visibility into. And when you put it in context of what we know they care about, they were much more driven to prioritize their time so that they could go ahead and adopt those steps. So those are kind of the primary things that we're looking at right now in terms of like initially, like, are we having good click-through rates on our email where we notify them? Are we getting them to submit their business goals? Are they driving adoption? But over time, we'll be looking at, do we actually increase their maturity score? So overall, like how healthy are they? And then ultimately, did it lead to better renewal rates and better growth outcomes for those customers?
Yeah, I think Alana nailed it on the head. Covered pretty much everything. I think the only other thing that I'll mention is, for the pilot, the other kind of data that we're interested in gathering was feedback for the participants. So we had, 0 through 10, what was their feedback? Like how was their experience? And then also if they had any open feedback. And so for the first cohort, we did receive some feedback from people like, hey, I've completed everything. Like, I want more, this wasn't enough. And so we're like, okay, that's great. And so as we evolved the program, we started to add more additional recommendations and started to think, okay, if a person does come into this and they are one of the more advanced customers who have achieved everything, how can we still add value for them? And so they can unlock additional like best practices that we only share with our most advanced customers. And so it's great to see being able to leverage EverAfter's ability to collect that user feedback. The NPS score across each cohort rose dramatically by being able to implement the direct feedback that customers were leaving within the experience.
So you were able to capture the feedback and I mean, quite fast to understand like the real sentiment, and based on that, just like to iterate and include. I mean, it's always great when customers want more advanced configuration. It means that they want to leverage more and more capabilities. All right. We have here some questions. How do you measure adoption? Was one of them.
I'll take that one. So it depends on the feature. So we measure adoption of a particular feature in different ways. So one particular feature that we try to drive adoption of is Okta FastPass. It's a phishing resistant authentication method. maybe you've used it in order to authenticate into Okta, or it might use biometrics as a way to couple with MFA or multi-factor authentication so that you can more securely log in. So that's a key goal for us. And when we look at FastPass adoption, we want to know, one, did they enable it within their instance, meaning that users can authenticate with it? But then two, are they actually authenticating with it? And it depends on how they configure their policy, whether there is a higher likelihood of users authenticating with it. For example, are they requiring authentication with it? So we'll look at overall how many authentications, so how many times has somebody logged in, did they actually authenticate using Okta FastPass? So that is just one feature, but every feature has its own adoption definition depending on how we think is the best way. And in some cases, we're looking at good, better, best. What is a good way of using the feature? What is a better way of using that feature? And what is the best way of using that feature? And we'll measure across all of those.
And another question on that. So I think that the first question was around how do you measure adoption within the Okta platform. Another question, I think it's around the adoption of this success plan tool. So did you have any issues with customer adoption? How did you get them to use and update EverAfter, especially on the smaller ones? Great question, Leslie.
You want to take that one?
Yeah, so that was something that we kind of did take into consideration was, all right, how do we actually get people to engage? And so after the initial email campaign that we had, that we sent, we had a follow-up notification email that was based off of a few different actions. One, for those people who did take action, we're like, hey, great job. Here's some next steps, things to keep in mind. And then we also did have some follow-up campaigns for people who, one, entered into EverAfter, but they didn't actually submit a goal. And we're like, well, submitting a goal is the first step if you really want to unlock all of the value for this. And so we had dedicated email campaigns to encourage them, like, hey, you're missing out on a lot of value by not submitting your business goals. And we did see that by following up with these customers, we're able to give them that extra push to actually submit their business goals and follow up and adopt more. And the analytic capabilities within EverAfter were super helpful to understand, okay, how many people are coming back? What things were checked off manually? And so by being able to measure how many people were actually manually completing these, we're able to kind of use that data to improve for future cohorts to make the experience easier so that as more people were coming in, we were increasing the number of participants who were adopting with the recommendations.
I think maybe to add on that, the percentage of the first cohort versus the second one was less good overall because we used the feedback provided by the first cohort and even change a bit of the language and making the text a bit clearer. So any iteration, we have like a new threshold that we could rely on. I will say that I think that also the way that you actually build the interface with like these bite-sized pieces, at every step is very clear for the customer what is asked, what is required from them to do. At this point, this for itself could motivate them to actually continue to engage with that. And also the fact that you insisted in connecting the product information, so they will not see something that they shouldn't see. So it's also, once the experience feels very relevant and actionable and personalized for them, then this for itself could really help to contribute the adoption of any digital interface that you might be leveraging. So this was one program that I know that was top of mind for you and your team. What are our other potential programs, or what are the next steps that you have in your digital interface building journey with us?
Yeah, so our immediate ones are building out our experience for our CSM covered accounts. We know it's a little bit different in the way a customer might engage when there's a CSM involved. So we're building a bit more of a collaborative experience where their CSM can be front and center, where a CSM can chat with their customer within that interface and really drive that experience as part of their ongoing conversations that they already have with their customers. In addition, we're providing some more resources in there like data benchmarking, which is sometimes requires a little explanation. So we want to make that a differentiator for our customers who have CSMs. We're launching that in a couple of weeks. So that's probably the number one priority for us. But the other piece that's probably going to be a fast follow is to build a onboarding experience. So today we're very focused on you've already deployed. How do I get the most value? We don't have an experience quite yet that focuses on what are those steps to get up and running. So that will probably be another key experience. We're also, after our product marketing team saw what we were doing here, they realized that, oh, hey, this is actually a really great way to engage with prospects. So they are also building an experience within EverAfter, even though we are not the ones driving that experience. We're partnering really closely with that team so that they can extend it to the sales experience as well. And then over time, there's things that we're looking at like self-service QBRs, more metrics reporting so customers can self-serve on those areas. And I'm sure there's plenty more that we haven't leveraged, but it's just a matter of prioritizing. We have a small but mighty team. We're actually hiring, so I'll do a quick plug if anybody is looking at building out some of these types of things. At Okta, we have an open role. So the more that we grow our team, the more we can take on these experiences.
I mean, if someone from the audience is looking for a new role, then I would apply. Also, Alana, I mean, we also said that we were going to do the end of year Spotify Wrapped experience. So that's another program that we had thoughts on.
Yes, we'd love to do that at some point.
Yes. All right, we do have time for a few more questions, and thank you for sharing that with us. I think that one question was around how are the desired business outcomes and recommendations that you enable are they on the organization level or at the end user level?
Yeah, for the most part, they're at the organization level. So a company can have multiple organizations that they run with Okta. So think like bigger companies might have different business units with different organizations, and we allow them to toggle between those different organizations because they might have different steps within each one of those instances within Okta. But ultimately, when they take a step within the product, they are changing settings at their organization level. So all the recommendations and the way we measure adoption are within the context of the organization.
So it could be that like the same person, when they need to work on multiple organizations, they might have different action items that they need to take.
If they are working on the same organization, they're going to have the same steps. So if like two super admins are on an account, one person says, okay, I completed that step would also check off for the other super admin that comes in later on.
And how long did it take you to build and deploy the first cohort, especially since you are a relatively large org?
Austin, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I will say the building and the aspect with EverAfter was the quickest and easiest part. Being a security company with Okta, we have a lot of processes that need to be followed in terms of gaining the security and making sure everything is approved. So I'd say the approval part and the processes were the most difficult part, but the actual building out of the experience was with it. We probably had it done within 2 or 3 weeks from starting. We worked really closely with the EverAfter team. They were, very helpful in helping to set that up. But the largest part was just gaining the buy-in and the approval needed to actually launch this for customers.
But what's good is that we passed Okta security, so they actually did a lot of things for all of our audience. So you can take that into consideration as well.
Very secure.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we have maybe time for one more. So you did cover that a bit, but once they complete the program, do you move them to another program, or like what's your thoughts on what other program they should be moving to?
I assume the question is in regards to they've completed all their tasks. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think Austin kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier. We found during the pilot that there were some customers who said like, oh, I already completed all these tasks. What's next? So we do have additional recommendations that we unlock for those customers that they can start to go through in terms of best practices. we are still in our early stages of one of our main goals is to expand the amount of recommendations we can provide customers and go a bit deeper in their adoption journey. So over time, we'll continue to iterate so that all customers have next steps. But yeah, for the time being, we keep them within this experience and expand the recommendations as we get access to more data.
That's amazing. I know that one of the capabilities that we are working on with our AI capabilities to curate for each customer based on a lot of factors that each org will provide, like the clear next best action that they should take. And it could be, hey, you need to enable this one. Hey, you need to watch this webinar. And based on that, we can really create a momentum of that every customer gets something that is super prioritized and super personalized for them. So that's something that I hope one day we'll leverage as well. So we are almost on time. So first of all, I really want to thank you both. Obviously, we work really closely to one another, and it's been a really great experience to really see how such a successful organization thinks and works and operates. So thank you, because you made our product better. And your feedback was really, really great. But if you can share, yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say thank you, Shahar. We echo that feedback. Y'all have been excellent partners to us, and we've enjoyed it every step of the way.
Thank you. So besides people that could apply to your to the position that you're hiring, what other like tips or thoughts or recommendations you can give to people that are like building their digital strategy and the digital motion that maybe it's like they could learn from the experts?
I think the best piece of advice that we started off with is start small. It's really hard to say like, oh, I'm going to build this big robust program at the outset. You have to start small in bite-sized pieces. We started with one personalized email on our digital success team to say, hey, looks like you haven't. We started by targeting our lifecycle management product, and app provisioning is the key part of that. So we just said, you haven't provisioned an application. Get started. Here's a link into the product to get started with an in-app guide. That was it. And that was our first step to driving a more personalized experience. And then we just built on top of that over time.
Austin, anything on your end?
I'm learning from Alana and the best. That's been great for me. I'm still, new to growing these programs. So I think it's been really great. And being able to, I think one of the biggest things that has been feeding us is being able to find the data points, find metrics that are compelling to customers, because the data is the thing that really powers all of this. And so whenever we do find a new data point that's available, we try and jump on it because we're like, oh, this is amazing. Let's see what types of things that we can build or ways that we can leverage this to share with our customers. And so that's one thing that I've seen has been very beneficial, and a big focus for us is being able to locate and find those data points to share in these programs.
All right. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for the audience for your questions. I think it was a really, really good demonstration on a digital accelerant. So thank you, Alana. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for setting this up.
Bye-bye. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.